This is Melanie from Art Lifting Hearts. I'm so happy you're here with me today for my first podcast. Through the use of my visual art and storytelling, I want you to be encouraged no matter what life throws at you today. And I also want to give you tools to in turn be an encourager to the people around you. Today's story is about this painting, Marie's Bouquet. When I painted this watercolor, I had one person in mind the whole time. It was my daughter, Marie. She and her husband, Bryan, have often brought me orchids, both on special days, but also just to say, I love you. It made me start thinking about flowers and love. I'm curious, what flower do you think best defines love? Usually the first thing I think of is a rose. And I do love roses. Anyone who knows me well knows I used to have a garden of over 30 old garden and modern English roses. But today, let me propose that orchids may be an even better representation of love. And here's why. I asked myself, when you think of love, what are you hoping for? As I thought about it, there were 4 main things that leapt to my mind. First, I think of love as being something that is faithful, withstanding difficulties. Did you know that orchids have an incredible root system that can hold them onto the trunk of a tree? In Hawaii, we had them growing on a coconut tree, and the roots wrap all the way around the tree, faithfully holding on through every stormy, hurricane-force wind that was thrown at us. Now that's withstanding a difficulty. Second, I think of love as forgiving. I know I'm certainly not a perfect person. Those who love me have to forgive me over and over and not give up on me as I try to grow and change. A few years ago, I purchased an orchid. When I got home and I examined it carefully, I figured out why it was on sale. The flowers at the top were huge and pretty, but down in the pot, the roots were rotting, and it was in really poor shape. I was so disappointed. I pulled it out of the pot and stuck it in the crook of a tree, expecting it to die. But do you know, 2 years later, that orchid put out 2 stalks of the most beautiful, large flowers I've ever seen. And the following year, it put out 5 stalks. This was the most forgiving plant I'd ever met, and it just didn't give up. Third, I think of love as being something special, something unique and exclusive between me and the one that loves me. The first time I went to the orchid show in Hilo, I was totally amazed. Orchids come in amazingly unique variety of shapes, sizes, colors, and even patterns. Some are larger than my hand, and some are teeny tiny as a fingernail. I giggled at the orchids that looked like happy faces with eyes and mouths smiling with love at me, and I smiled back. I found some to have a soft tropical fragrance, and there was one that even smelled like chocolate. I even had an orchid in my yard. It grew vanilla beans. I used to think orchids were just one kind of flower like they sell in the grocery store. Now I know how unique they are and how exclusive an orchid garden can be. Fourth, the thought I had about love is that I need it to be plentiful. I need lots and lots of it. At the Hilo Farmers Market, one of the first things that always catches my eye are the buckets and buckets full of orchids for sale. In fact, that's what this painting is based on. Pictures I've taken of these buckets full of orchids. These orchids will be woven into lei for greetings, for celebration, and even for remembering and mourning the loss of someone special. That's a lot of love. These 4 characteristics can be hard to find, especially if we look for them all in one person. I've been blessed to experience all of them at times through people, but the love I know I can always rely on is God's love. He is always faithfully there, putting up with my struggles and forgiving me my failures. And His love is so personal and so plentiful. Did you know God loves you in these ways too? He does. He sees you and is faithful to you even in the hardest of times. He's so forgiving and offers you a personal, unique relationship with more love than you can even comprehend. In a letter to the people in Corinth, Paul, a follower of Jesus, describes what perfect love is. He says that love is patient and love is kind. Love doesn't envy and love doesn't boast. Love isn't proud, nor does love dishonor others. It is not self-serving and it is not easily angered. Love doesn't keep a record of wrongs, and it doesn't delight in evil, but it rejoices with the truth. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. This is the love you are loved with. I hope now, after hearing this, Marie's Bouquet now speaks love to you. I hope you understand how perfectly loved you are. The beautiful thing is, not only does God love each of us in these ways, but He's also asked us to show that kind of love to others. Of course, none of us is perfect at it like He is. But I hope you'll ask yourself if there is someone you know who needs to feel loved today. If so, can you be a lei of orchids to them, wrapping them in love? Maybe you'll want to forward this podcast to them. And I would love it if you'd send me a message through my website with their name so I can pray for them and that they experience God's love through you. If you enjoyed this podcast today, please subscribe. And if you need more encouragement, or if you need ideas about how to encourage others, visit our website at artliftinghearts.com. If you'd like to see more of my artwork, you can find it at melaniepruittart.com. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. You are loved.